Hey everyone, today will be a quick adventure around Cincinnati. This is the Norfolk Southern Guest Street Yard, for anyone not familiar with the area. It's a relatively small yard, but it does see a good deal of traffic come through each day. I had a day off work and was hoping to chase something from the yard up to Columbus. It's one of the few lines in the area I have yet to catch anything on. After asking a question about a call time in the Cincinnati Railfan Facebook group, I quickly found out I wasn't in luck. I was driving around checking signals when I saw a CSX track crew on the viaduct heading south to the C&O Railroad Bridge. More bad news. Then I heard something pop up on the radio. I was only getting bits and pieces, but it sounded like a CSX train was going to head west out of the Queensgate yard. That's just north of where we are. I've been wanting to chase a CSX train through Seymour, Indiana and down to Louisville for more than a year. Today was going to be my lucky day. From what I could make out, there was a local on the line and one or two Indiana and Ohio trains I would have to wait for. I was trying to figure out where I wanted to catch it first. There aren't many great spots along River Road. It's very industrial with limited space. While I was driving, I came across one of the Indiana and Ohio trains. I figured, you know what? I've never caught one of these before. I might as well, right? Well, I barely got set up and here it comes. Now just a quick second look at the engine. This train also had an engine on the end of it. I assume that's to make it easier to go in either direction since there's nowhere to turn around. I hadn't heard anything from that CSX train, so I kept going west. I then spotted another I&O train, and I decided I'd get set up at a better location and get a bridge in the shot too. This bridge crosses the Great Miami River north of where it empties into the Ohio River. You can see there used to be a second track on the bridge, but it's been removed for some time. The drone work is a little shaky. I haven't had my morning coffee yet. Now we'll watch as the train comes over from the ground. Here's a little about the I&O. It operates more than 550 miles of track across Ohio, southeastern Indiana, and southern Michigan. You probably already guessed by the paint scheme it's owned by the Genesee in Wyoming. They acquired it in 2012 with the purchase of Rail America. The Indiana-Ohio Railroad was formed more than 40 years ago in 1978 to operate between Valley Junction, Ohio, which is just west of Cincinnati, and Brookville, Indiana. The route we're on was operated by the Cleveland, Cincinnati, Chicago, and St. Louis Railroad, and known as the Big Four route until it was acquired by the New York Central system. The New York Central operated its famous James Whitcomb Riley passenger train over the route. That train would eventually become the Amtrak Cardinal, but it no longer runs over this line. After the New York Central and Pennsylvania Railroad merger into the Penn Central, the line was abandoned. It was then rebuilt and operated by Conrail with state funding. Conrail then sold the line in 1992 to Central Properties, which operated it as the Central Railroad of Indiana. The I&O purchased the railroad in 1998 and has put a lot of money into the line. In 2008, Honda opened an assembly plant in Greensburg, Indiana, and this line exclusively serves that plant. Well, it's been a while and I still haven't heard anything from that CSX train that was heading westbound. As I was driving back towards Cincinnati, I saw yet another Indiana and Ohio train. I figured, why not? This time I set up in front of the old Cleves Depot. It's now a dental office, but you can clearly see the history in the structure. I set up my cameras and waited for the headlight to come into view. While I was waiting though, a fire truck pulled up next to me, so I'm sorry about the audio. I sent the drone to do a little exploring and spotted the train passing by one of the many industries along this route. You can see the Ohio River in the background. This is also the area where the CSX line and the I&O line split. CSX heads through Lawrenceburg, Indiana, onto Seymour and then Washington, while this line heads northwest. We'll speed it up a bit as the train makes its way toward us. I never really felt the urge to railfan the I&O, but today I'm actually enjoying this. I like that these aren't 13,000-foot monsters. As the train rounds the bend and out of sight, I still haven't heard anything on the original CSX that sent me this direction in the first place. I head back to Guest Street and make another check of the signals. Nothing from what I can see. There was a Norfolk Southern that had recently arrived and was hanging over the bridge into Ludlow, Kentucky. That was it. We'll look around a little bit more while we see if anything happens. The Guest Street yard is surrounded by CSX. It's nowhere near as big, but this yard is always busy. I live closer to the NS line, and from what I can hear and what I see, it certainly does seem to be the busier of the two railroads. If you ever come to Cincinnati, it's worth stopping by Union Terminal. It was finished in 1933 and is the largest half-dome in the Western Hemisphere. It seemed kind of odd that it's only the largest in the Western Hemisphere. But after a bit of looking, I could not find what dome is larger. Either way, if you're in the city, stop by and check it out. Definitely worth it. Well, back to the NS yard. It only allows for flat track switching and a small intermodal facility, which I can see looks pretty full right now. We'll continue to look around, but I think I see something in the distance. That must be that CSX train I'd heard earlier in the day. I guess it had to wait for those I&O trains to head out first. It's kind of surprising to me. I would assume CSX always gives first priority to its trains. As we get closer, we'll take a look at where the track leaves the yard. It's a single line that makes a hard right turn to the west. You can see it goes through a gap in the flood wall. I would imagine that's a pretty tight fit for anything longer than a standard car. We can see the train slowly creeping out. This doesn't look like a manifest freight though, more likely a local. I tried to jump ahead of it, but it was tucked into an area I couldn't see and was dropping off and picking up some cars. I spotted it again a short time later working some tank cars, but again, couldn't find a good spot to record it. I was getting pretty hungry at this point and figured it was probably time to head home. I had a lot of fun on the I&O line. We'll definitely look to follow more of those trains along some of the other routes in the area. If you have any tips for catching those trains, I surely would appreciate it. Well, until our next trip, I hope you have a great day.